Chromosomes. Little strands of nucleic acids and proteins are the fundamental genetic instructions that tell us who we are at birth. Most people are born with 46 chromosomes, but each year in the United States, about 6,000 people are born with an extra chromosome, making them a person with Down syndrome. If you've ever encountered someone with Down syndrome, you know that they are some of the kindest, most joyful people you will ever meet. They truly have something extra. My name is Lisa Nichols, and I have spent the last 24 years as both the CEO of Technology Partners and as the mother to Allie. Allie has something extra in every sense of the word. I have been blessed to be by her side as she impacts everyone she meets. Through these two important roles as CEO and mother to Allie, I have witnessed countless life lessons that have fundamentally changed the way I look at the world. While you may not have an extra chromosome, every leader has something extra that defines who you are. Join me as I explore the something extra in leaders from all walks of life and discover how that difference in each of them has made a difference in their companies, their families, their communities, and in themselves. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with my friend, Jack Lannom. Jack is not only the author of People First and founder of People First International, he is also an in-demand speaker and a first for our show, a Kung Fu Grandmaster. Well, Jack, I am so excited to have you with us today. As I was thinking about it today, one podcast is just not enough to contain Jack Lannom. I'm so excited for our listening audience to get to experience you.
Thank you so much.
Truly. So let's just jump right in because we've got a lot to talk about. Tell me about your beginnings. How did you start your career? And then we'll segue into some other things.
Well, before I do that, I just want to say that it is such a blessing to be here with you. After listening to you, I'm going, I have to be here. That you are so gifted, Lisa.
I appreciate
God
that.
has, I mean that sincerely before the Lord, that listening to you on this, I mean, you know how to bring out the best in people.
Oh, well, that means so much to me coming from you.
Well, thank you. So I appreciate the question. That's people like knowing, well, how did it start?
Sure,
because I'm
absolutely.
71. And
you don't look 71.
Well, thank you. So I started this over 45, 47 years ago, the company. And people said, well, how did it all begin? You know, the People First International. So I was in college, and it was about my third year of college. And I was studying psychology at Middle Tennessee State University. And so my dad told me, he said, son, you're going and you're studying psychology. He said, come to work for me at our plant. So it was in Nashville, and it was called Avco Corporation. They did all the wings for the L-1011 and a lot of the space stuff, satellites and things there. And so my dad was the general manager for all the employees. He said, come and work there for the summer. He said, so you will drive to work and then come home and we'll debrief and you tell me what you're learning and what the insight. He said, because you really need to know the real world. You're getting the academic stuff, but here's how it really does work in the real world. So after a couple of weeks, he turned to me driving home and he says, well, what do you think? And I said, I don't want to be critical, but the guy that you have, the supervisor, he brings out the worst in me. I said, I want to go home and take Prozac. I said, I need a counselor. I want to take a positivity shower after this guy. And I said, and that's what everybody says about him, that he never says anything good. He doesn't reward, no celebration. It's always waiting for you to mess up. And he's critical, condemning, and condescending. He's the captain of the C team. And so then Dad said, could you do better? I said, no, I'm not saying I could do better, but I know how I feel.
Right.
And so the phrase that we use that people only remember 2% after 24 hours of what you said to them. However, people remember 100% of how they made you feel for the rest of their lives. And so he made me feel terrible. So I told him, I said, I'm not saying I could do better, but I know how I feel. If he were to ask me, well, how do you feel about you when you're around me? I would say, I don't feel good about me, and I don't feel good about you. When I'm around you, you bring out the worst in me.
Yes.
And so the energy, my energy was low around him. He didn't believe in us. It was all about him. He was a prisoner of his own self-importance. It was all about hubris, arrogance, no humility in this guy, because he had all the degrees and knew more than us.
Had the pedigree.
He had the pedigree, knew more than us. And so he said, son, this is what we're going to do. So we're going to start a company. I said, what? Hold on, wait. So we're going to start a corporation. And my mother, I was just talking to her the other day. She said, I remember when we started the corporation at the kitchen table. So we're going to start a corporation. He said, I'm your dad, and I never could do what I wanted to do, which was be an entrepreneur. Because I got married young, had you and your brother. So I got the job and the paycheck, the security for your mother and for you guys. And he said, but I've always wanted to have my own business. So I'm going to do it through you. I'm going to live vicariously. I said, what's this mean? He said, don't worry about it. He says, I know all the business savvy.
And how old were you, Jack?
I was early 20s, about 22.
22.
Yeah, 22 years old. And so that's when the company started. He incorporated, and he taught me everything. Then after school, I started getting other people coming on board. And it just took off, and I started writing books. I'm the most unlikely person to write a book. When I spoke back at our high school, at Antioch High School, I spoke to 2,000 of students. They told Mrs. Williams, well, my English teacher, said, well, Jack's going to speak today, and he's a published author. Then she started laughing. It's not the Jack that I know. He didn't know anything about grammar or anything. And so when I spoke, she was going, what happened to you? You're a published author.
Right.
And so it was just such a blessing to get other people in the company that really understand it's all about people. So that's the name of our company, People First International.
I love that story.
Thank you.
Good for your dad, taking a risk like that, right?
Yes.
And, so when you were talking to him about this person that made you just feel awful, how did he receive that? Had he recognized that as well? Because I'm sure that some of the employees had probably come to him, maybe complaining about this person. I mean, how did he receive it? Did he see it? Sometimes I don't think the leader always sees, because that person may not be that to them. Right?
Yes, very, very good. Thank you for that. It's a really great point. He did not know it. He didn't recognize it. So a lot of people in that position are very powerful people, very dominant. They're not about care and develop people. And so people were afraid to speak up, that they would be fired. And so he was protected, really.
Right.
So I told my dad, he says, wow, that's really interesting. That guy does a really good job of saying to me what I want to hear, but really it's duplicity. He has a different face to you guys.
Right.
He has two faces. And so it was really good. Didn't do well for that guy because my dad found out about it.
Sure.
Right, but I said, I'm not trying to tattle on the guy, but he said, no, I want to know. But a lot of people in position, they don't realize that you have people in your company that are, we call them snakes. There are 4 types of people in every company. We have the snakes, and you have the stars, you have the lightning bugs, and the busy bees.
Okay. Can you unpack those for us? Yeah. That's the first time I've heard that.
Yes. Well, a snake in an organization, they're like a Bernie Madoff. And so the passion is there, and the performance is amazing, but it's all about them. It is all focused to them. They draw everyone away from really the mission, the vision, and the values of the company. It becomes them. So they are the focus. So they want you to genuflect when they walk in the room, bow and worship them. They think they're the 4th member of the Trinity, is what they think. That is the snake.
Right.
They will deceive you. Now, the lightning bug is the person that's, if you look at a grid and you think about the y-axis and the x-axis, so y being high passion, the x-axis being performance. So the snake is really, they pretend like it's passion, like a Bernie Madoff. High EQ, high emotional intelligence, off the chart Bernie Madoff was. And then high IQ. So the performance is there, but it's deceptive. They're very, very deceptive. They're the snake in the organization.
Right.
And so the lightning bug, they have high passion, but they're low on performance. So my mother, when I was a little kid, would say, let's go hunting for lightning bugs. And it was a dark night and put a little mason jar with holes on top of it.
Yeah.
And then it was the moon. There's no light that night. And I was a little kid and it says, there's a lightning bug on. So there it is. I went to grab it off. And so the lightning bugs are on. Yes, let's do it. Let's go for this project. Where are they? They're the rubber crutch. They're on, then they're off. And so high passion, but low performance.
Right.
And then the busy bee, they're high performance, but they're low passion. They don't have the heart for it. But they're your helper. They work and very good at working, but they don't really have a heart.
Right.
They're not really
that
people.
engaged, right?
They're results-oriented, task-oriented, not relationship-oriented. We call them loveless. And so the star is the person it's like the North Star. So the passion is there. I mean, it's a bright star. And then the steadiness of that, the performance of the North Star, you can always count on them. You can depend on it.
Right.
And so that star it's not shining for themselves, is to care and develop others. So they will delight you, and the lightning bugs, they will disappoint you because of the rubber crutch.
Sure.
And the snakes,
Stay
they
away.
will deceive you.
Stay away.
And they will harm you.
Sure.
And the busy bees, they will discourage you because the heart's not in it.
I love that. I love that.
So it's a different way of looking at your organization. So back to your point about the guy that was in Dad's company, he was a snake. But the snakes are very deceptive. And a lot of times they will hide who they really, really are to their boss. They'll cover that.
Their true colors probably come out to their subordinates, but to the boss.
That's exactly what it is. I've been doing this now for over 40-something years, and I've seen these four people in all the organizations. And what people do, they don't spend time really with the stars. Really develop your stars because they're all in.
You don't want to lose the stars.
No. That's your high potentials. And you really want to invest in them because the energy is there, the passion, the performance, and you can count on them, depend on them, rely on them, depend on them, trust in them. They're your high trust experience people.
Sure. That's great. Well, okay, so we've got so many things to talk about, but we have to talk about martial arts.
Well, okay.
Yeah, and we'll share the video. For those of you who don't know Jack, he held the world record for the most pounds of ice, breaking with his bare hands. So you are a Kung Fu grandmaster.
Yes, that's correct.
So talk to us a little bit about that. How did you get into that? And then I want the listening audience to hear, this was a hobby for you, really,
Yes,
but
it
you
was.
had 5 schools in Nashville.
Yes.
How'd you get into it?
I was 17 years old. So I was in Nashville, and the girl that was beauty queen, head of cheerleaders there at our high school. She looked like when she was 17, looked like she was 25. And is mature, super mature. So I was close to her, and she invited me to come to a party that she had to meet her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was a Tennessee state champion in the martial arts. And it was all Kung Fu. But at that time, this was in 1965, no one knew Kung Fu. It was karate. And so I got to meet him at the party and got to learn about who he was. And then he said, well, how'd you like to take some Kung Fu lessons? It would help you with football and with track and all your sports with the speed and discipline and all those things, flexibility. And I said, yeah, I love it. So I became his first student. And his name is Grandmaster Schaefer.
Okay.
He's in the Hall of Fame right now.
Oh, wow.
And so I did not know who his teacher was. His teacher became one of the most famous martial artists on this planet that ever lived. But I didn't know it because his teacher would come to Nashville and privately tutor him, that he would pass on all this to us. So he would read a letter from his teacher, and his teacher said, I'm going to be the role of Kato in Green Hornet that's coming out the TV show. So his teacher was Bruce Lee.
Oh, wow.
And so we didn't know how great Bruce Lee was.
Right.
And so we got into all that, and I began studying, and then I became a teacher in his school. And I got all the football team into it.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. I said, we got to do this. Then my grandmaster would look at me and say, well, what do you really want to learn? So I really want to learn to break bricks. He says, oh, okay, very shallow. It's not about the discipline of use, it's about breaking bricks.
Just breaking bricks.
He said, you want to impress the girls? I said, yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm thinking you might have been competing for that beauty cream.
Yes, right.
We'll talk more about that.
Right. And so he said, anybody can become a backyard brick-breaking black belt. He said, very seldom the bricks ever attack you.
That's funny.
So I went to the local brickyard and got a brick and tried to break it. This is after 2 weeks of being in the Kung Fu class. And I could never break it. Then I gave the brick to him. He looked at it. He says, my son, do you know what kind of brick this is? I said, no, sir. He said, this is a fire brick. No one breaks fire brick. He says, here, go and find bricks with holes in it.
Oh,
that's
funny.
Little bricks. So I started with the Kung Fu and went through it and 6 different styles in Kung Fu and became a 10th degree black. That's a grandmaster in it.
Mm-hmm. And you ended up having 5 schools, right? In Nashville?
5 Kung Fu schools.
You had 5 Kung Fu. But you were doing this as a hobby.
As a hobby, yes, right.
But you still do that today.
Yes, I do.
I've been to your house and I've seen the dummy man
the wooden
that you
dummy,
spar
right.
with.
Right.
That's great. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Jack Lannom. Hey everyone, I want to tell you about something so cool going on right now in the Nichols household. Allie, our wonderful daughter and the inspiration for Something Extra, is competing in the Dancing with the St. Louis Stars event this January. Allie will be the Something Extra for the night and we need your help. Please go to lisagailnichols.com/vote, watch a video of Allie's story, and get all the links to vote. Each vote is $10 and you can vote as many times as you like. All of the proceeds support the Independence Center, a community-based rehabilitation program for adults with severe and persistent mental illnesses. This is a fantastic organization, and voting for Allie is a great way to support the important work they are doing. And we want Allie to win. Pause the show, go over to lisagailnichols.com/vote, and join Team Allie. Jack, welcome back. So just recently, I was presenting to a group of people, and one of the questions that came up, we were talking about the management of time and how important it is to do time studies. And, we only have 168 hours in the week, and where your time goes and how you spend it's really important. And someone raised their hand and said, I love the concept of time, but I want to know more about energy. How do you manage your energy? So when we talked about you breaking 3,000 pounds of ice.
Right.
I would imagine that so much of that, it's a mental game for one, but just this inner energy coming out. Can you talk to us, the listening audience? Because I bet you there's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, I want to know how to manage my energy.
Yes. The whole concept is fascinating. That I thought with one of my grandmasters, I went on to have several grandmasters, but one of them was an Asian man, little guys, about 120 pounds, and I would look at him and I was thinking, I know I'm stronger than you, but he had something that I did not have, that he would look at me and said, big muscle. Big, and I'm not making fun. It was the Asian language.
Sure.
But, you big muscle, but little mind.
That's good.
And so the point was that you do not understand, it said in the West, you don't understand the Eastern concept of energy with regard to the thinking. And so there's a style of Kung Fu that I was introduced to called Xingyi, and it means the idea. And the idea is where the energy comes from. So that's where all the energy comes from. What we've learned with regard to energy in companies, we walk into a company and we have what is called the net trust score. You have net promoter score. But we do an audit in companies, and we've developed what's called net trust score. And so we see a low trust energy. And then the low trust energy is because of the people of the idea. They don't have the idea of what it means to be human. So the whole energy of what he got me into, he says, you have so much more energy than you realize. He said, but it all starts with the belief of innate dignity, who you are, you're made in the image of God, and then your worth, that you have immeasurable worth and untapped potential. So is the idea starting to think about that your mind is so much stronger than your body could ever be. So he would do things like breaking a brick. If I would tell you things that I saw him do, it's no exaggeration, you would not believe it. And so I knew then
there's something to it.
There was something, he was the one introduced to breaking ice. But he would take his hand where he put his hand over the top of the ice, and there'd be no leverage at all. And then he would move his body and get himself into a state. It was a mental state he got into. And then all of a sudden, it's like his body would explode. It was from 3-4 inches, he would hit the ice and he'd break all the ice. And I'd look at that and I was going, what happened? And I was going, Grandmaster, you can tell me you're not from our planet. You're visiting from planet Kung Fu.
Sure.
And so he said, no. And then I learned the whole secret of the ice breaking with the energy, but it's all of the
Isn't
mind.
it just so incredible?
But back into the whole thing of we have a 5-step process of the energy. And it's called the thinking. Then from the thinking, it's the emotions. And then from the emotions, it's the language. From the language, it's the behavior. And then from the behavior, it's the results. And so the energy starts in the thought. And then the thought for companies, because, we've moved from customer experience to CX now, and really in 2017, the language and the corporate lexicon became EX, which stands for employee experience, but they don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, they're talking about, there's a lot of talk, you can read it, Gallup.
They know they need to be thinking about it.
Yes, but they do not know how to get that energy. And the energy, people talk about value added. It's not really value added. It's value recognition, Lisa. It's the understanding of the value of the innate dignity, immeasurable worth, and untapped potential of the human spirit. Mm-hmm. But it starts with that idea and that belief in the person and realizing that I know who you are. Oh, you read my resume. No. I know you're made in the image of God. And I know what it means to be human. That's what we don't know. Mm-hmm. That's where the energy starts, is with the thinking of the leaders, of believing that everyone is made in the image of God, regardless of the race, nationalities, gender, I don't care what it is, that I'm looking at you. And when I believe that, as the Bible talks about in 1 Corinthians 10:24, let no one seek his own, but each one the other's well-being. But that comes from a philosophy of knowing that you really are made in the image of God. You have innate dignity. There's nothing that Lisa can do to make herself more human. Mm-hmm. Beauty brains, brawn bucks, status, appearance, performance. I've made $10 billion. I'm Warren Buffett. Well, didn't make yourself more human. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. So that's our problem, Lisa, with energy. So the energy comes with the belief, the philosophy of what it means to be human. And everyone that's adopting that now, Wegmans, grocery store, Publix, Southwest, they're all talking about the people first culture.
Right. You said how many companies are there?
27
companies
that we've documented.
That you've documented.
They're all talking about the people first culture.
Right.
People first.
Let's talk about, because I want our listening audience to understand people first more. So people first is not just you, Jack.
No.
People first, you are made up of research, scientists,
We have scientists, 5 PhDs.
Neuroscience, all sorts of things.
Yes.
So 5 PhDs.
5 PhDs.
And you guys are constantly doing research, right?
4 years of experience. We've written 70 books.
You've written 70 books.
Collectively, all of us have.
Wow.
On this whole subject of organizational development. What's the secret sauce? They talk about it, but they don't really know what it is. Mm-hmm. We have one of our people as a PhD in OD, Leslie McKnight, but all of them will tell you that what's missing is the understanding of what it means to be human. That's the energy. That is the energy. That's the secret sauce. So we're global leaders in the whole concept of human value economics, Lisa.
I love it. There are a few companies here in St. Louis that I know of that are certified as people first companies.
Yes.
But then you've also certified states, haven't you? Or cities or something, Jack, right? I don't want to misquote, so I'll let you talk about that.
Well, we're in the process of doing that.
Right, okay.
We've talked to Charlotte.
Right, I was going to say, I thought it was North Carolina.
Yes, right. Talked to them about becoming the first people first certified state.
Yeah, how cool is that?
So we're been working on that and doing that. But it's really, when a leader understands, it's not about me. Like if you don't come to work, the company's not going to fold. Mm-hmm. But if everybody in the company doesn't come to work, there is no company.
So that's why that employee experience is so important. You want people coming, you want them bringing their whole self to the organization.
Right.
And
the philosophy is learning how to think more of others without thinking less of yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the philosophy of people first.
I love that. C.S. Lewis, that's one of my favorite definitions of humility. He said it's not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less. And there is a huge difference.
It is.
In that. So where do you think executives sometimes get it wrong? And we've kind of talked about that, but just crystallize that for the audience.
This whole concept of trust. this is where they get it wrong. They need to understand that you need to do an assessment on your organization to truly understand
Right.
where are you in this whole understanding of trust. Have I developed a high trust culture? Do I have a low trust culture? For example, this year, Mercy Hospital, they approached us and they said, we have 45,000 employees, and every January, we give out our engagement assessment. And they said, we look at the engagement of all 45,000 employees. But what we'd like to do, since the book came out on trust, they said, we would like to take your trust statements and put it on our platform. And just curious, is there a correlation between high engagement and high trust? And the flip side, is there a correlation between low engagement and low trust? And so our whole team, we did that for them, took a few months to do it. They put it out to all the employees. And it came back, and guess what they discovered? They said, this is amazing. There is a definite correlation
directly
between directly correlated. And so they found where there was low engagement, it was always low trust, always. When there was high engagement, it was high trust. So I think that the whole thing with leaders, that PricewaterhouseCoopers, when they came out, this was in 2016 with their global assessment with CEOs, they said 55% of CEOs said they believe that low trust was a threat to their organizational growth. However, Lisa, they said that we're not doing anything to increase it. Then you ask why. So someone asked them why. They said the reason, we don't know where to start. What was missing, we don't look at trust as an educational initiative. We don't look at it like any other educational domain that can be learned, developed, and sustained.
Sure.
And so if you go out there and do the research on it, there's been 50 years of research on trust, and guess what they say? There's no common definition of what it even means. So what we did, we went out and did all the research. We've been actually in the space of trust for over 25 years. And so we have our definition of it, and there's 7 keys that we've codified. And so we have a proven system that any CEO, any leader can take
that
and develop a high trust culture. We call it the 7 keys for mastering high trust in a low trust world. That's what it's called.
I love that. Well, and what's so exciting about that, Jack, if you do have a low trust culture, it doesn't mean you have to stay there, right?
No.
I mean, this is the way it is. No. I mean, you can actually do things, and you've got the 7 keys to help that organization go to a high trust culture. I love that. So organizations all the time, NPS, people talk about Net Promoter Score.
Right.
Why shouldn't we be talking about the Net Trust Score?
Yes, that's the problem. It's really the antecedent. It really should be the thing that you take first to get that right, because then you will always have a high Net Promoter Score.
Right.
You'll have the promoters and not the distractors.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
With
absolutely. So what leaders working today, and you can name people from your past or today, present day, that you really admire? And what is it that you admire about them, Jack?
I admire the new CEO of MyTech Industries, Mark Tom. Known Mark for about 5 years now, and he came on a couple years ago. Has been there, the new CEO of MyTech Industries, and they're in the trust space, and they're in 90 countries, multi-billion-dollar company, all over the world. And what I admire about him, that he gets it. He's the star in my whole thing of the quadrant.
Right.
Mark's the star.
High performance,
high passion.
Absolutely.
But what he's all about, it's not about Mark. He's all about care and development. He's humble. It's not hubris. And he really understands these 7 keys of trust. May I give you the 7 keys?
Absolutely. Please do.
Character. You come down, throw up your muscles. So that's competence. Then bring your hands down in front of the 2 thumbs up. Confidence. Put your hand on your heart. Caring. Put your hands out like typing stands for communication. And point to the watch that is consistent time. Point to your ring that is commitment. And that's all 7.
I love it.
You can teach that to 8th graders in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I love
So that's why I trust him.
Very good. Well, this is called Something Extra, Jack. So I want to hear from you. What do you feel like the something extra is that every leader needs? And we've kind of touched on some of those.
Yes, they need to ask everyone, do you trust me? That's what they need to ask. They need to look them in the eye and say, please, I really want you to be honest. Do you trust me? But where that needs to start is not start there in the organization. It needs to start at home. You need to go to your mate. Do you trust me? With my wife in 2010, I was starting to believe all the press clippings about me. I won a national award on one of my books. So I was a keynote speaker at a conference for 3 days. At the end of the conference, she came to me and she says, can we go back to the hotel room and talk? I'm going, uh-oh.
What have I done?
She said, you know that book, People First? I said, yes. So I knew. She said, the way you were treating me was not very honoring. I was going, wow. I said, I blindsided. She said, some of the things you were saying, the way you were treating me, it was like you're the big guy on campus and I'm nobody, but I'm your wife.
Right.
I should be the queen. If you're the king, am I the queen? She said, it wasn't respectful. And she said, that my key word is respect. And so we sat there in the hotel for 3 hours learning how for Jack Lannom to become more trustworthy. And I asked her after 3 hours, I said, is that good? You need to tell me any more. She says, yes, but you couldn't handle it.
I'll give it to you in little doses.
Right. So you know what I started doing then? I said, I don't want to ever have this happen again. And so for all these years, I will look at her and ask her, give me an audit with regard to these 7 keys of trust. Help me see my gaps. So that's where it has to start.
She's got to administer the net trust score on you.
With me, right. And so, Lisa, that's awesome. The something more. We need to start at home.
Absolutely.
And look at our mate and say, here are these 7 keys. Would you give me a frown, a neutral, or a smiley face? And go through all 7 and ask. It takes a lot of courage.
Sure.
But what you'll find out when you are willing to look at yourself in the eyes of another person, the truth, and say, you know what, honey, care. I let you down and care. And really get into the dialogue with it and said, that's got to be really painful for you, and I was wrong. Will you forgive me? And that's where the growth
The family is where it starts.
That's where it starts with the
Jack?
family. Yes.
It's where it starts. And I'm thinking, that's a great question to ask your children. So, Jack, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about what you're really excited about that's coming up. There's a book on the table here, The People First Effect.
Yes.
I've actually listened to the audio version of that. Would highly recommend it to everyone. But then you got another book coming out. What are you excited about that you want our listening audience to know?
The thing that I'm excited about the most is I wrote this book, The People First Effect, and I did it to be turned into a motion picture.
Oh, that's right. I think I remember you telling me.
I did it for that. As a young person, I'd written movie scripts. I just always enjoyed that since a young person. Love good movies. So I wrote this with all the dialogue to turn it into a movie. And so I found a movie producer. This man, I met him in Washington, D.C. last year, and he said, I'm going back to Hawaii. I have an office in Hawaii and L.A. He said, let me look at the books. I'm looking for, good movie scripts and things, especially faith-based.
Yes.
And so he read the book on the way to Hawaii. He called me from Hawaii. He said, I cried like a baby. He says, let's produce it. So we got the prospectus out, and I'm out raising money now for the movie.
Okay.
And it's called The Awakening.
Oh, I love
That's the name of the
that.
movie. And the subtitle is called Belief Changes Everything. And so it's
great subtitle.
It's to really launch this whole movement, the People First Revolution. That's what it's all about. To really understand what it means to be made in God's image, and for leaders to take this People First message and really honor the people by understanding that every person I have in my company, it's not about human doings. It's about human beings. So that every human being is unique. And that person, not just in the fingerprint that's unique, but the soul is unique, the personality. There's only one Lisa Nichols. There's only one you. That's why I'm here. I want to interview you sometime. And so the something extra is realizing that they come to your company, with your organization, and only they have something extra. So that may be the person that's going to take your company from where it is to that next level because they have something extra.
Very good. Well, Jack, this has been just such a delight. I love every time I get to spend with you, every moment of the time I get to spend with you.
It's my honor, my total honor.
It's great.
May I just say this? If a person wants
yes, please.
As a gift to your listeners, the net trust score, like the Net Promoter Score, if anyone would like to have a free assessment, we have a 1 hour free assessment. Our coaches, executive coaches, do.
Okay, so how would they get in touch with you?
They would email Jack at think, THINK, people first, and spell out FIRST, thinkpeoplefirst.com. And just email me if you'd like to have a free 1 hour assessment on your company to see where you are, if there are any gaps. And then we can help you with that of really understanding your net trust score.
Well, thank you for that. You're welcome. That's a gift. I can't imagine anybody that wouldn't want to do that. So
well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our show today is executive produced by Brian Muncie. Our technical producer is Daniel Williams. Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc., 2018. For show notes or to reach out to Lisa, visit lisagailnichols.com/somethingextra. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen.